heard some great insights about the entire, thought on decarbonization, net zero, what can be done, how it needs to be done. I think each one spoke about how the trends are changing and what is happening in the world. So it's quite interesting to see that as architects, as real estate developers, as net zero being the future, GNFZ is doing a great job with creating impact with the entire net zero vision. So I think a lot is happening, and we are actually working in depth when it comes to design, when it comes to services, like I call, when you put in solar, when you put in different solutions. And I think there a lot of work has been happening for the last, 15 odd years. Uh, However, over the years, I felt, these materials have not been given the due importance, and the trend is changing because everybody mentioned that materials play a very key role in actually shaping the real estate story. So I'm just going to keep it very short and simple because I was told it's about 8 to 9 minutes. I'm going to stick to that and see how we can run through what my beliefs are and what is happening in today's time and era in sustainability and the built environment. So, there's a very interesting thing that's been happening around the world. We're all talking about sustainable materials, and there's a lot of work that's happening. We've been talking about Maiwan construction technology. Is it better than RCC and brick construction? Is it so? There are a lot of concepts and a lot of technologies in construction that are coming in every day in our country and internationally. So there's so much happening in terms of technological advancements when it comes to building construction, which typically will impact the materials that you use. In the beginning, someone mentioned that you should look at the 5 materials that are being used or which are high consumptions or high in number, and how they impact the carbon story or what is happening. Sometimes when I sit back and I think, conventional versus today, very often we actually question ourselves as to what is happening. We're also working, so we also spoke about technology, like simulations or LCAs and tools that are available to actually measure sustainability. And each one of these are talking about reducing your carbon, reducing the numbers, reducing carbon. So all of us are talking about that, but what is really happening and how can we change that is the future that we need to look at. So this is just like a thought process into the whole story. So as we move, adopt a material first decarbonization strategy. So design is definitely very important. Energy consumption, utilization, services, or operational carbon is very important, but so is embodied carbon. And I think that is what I was told to, take a look at in today's session, because we already had someone speak about operational carbon and also design. So I think embodied carbon is very important, and that has been put in every discussion in the. So this is all about life cycle carbon emissions is what we talk about, and how a material plays an important role to actually make that impact in that. There's a very interesting thing that, I encountered today. I was with Mashelkar sir for a meeting, and we had discussion, and, he said, our resources are finite, our desires are infinite. And, so we all must understand that we have limited resources, but our desires are infinite. And I think that's a very interesting statement that even plays an important role when we are thinking about building materials, and the way we've gone infinite on materials and the availability of materials in the industry, in the real estate industry, is really something that we have to much ponder about when we are talking about building materials. And that is our focus for today and in the next 5-7 minutes that we are together. When we are looking at materials, this is what you typically see, and we have tools that do that. And again, as mentioned, steel and cement alone contribute to almost 60 to 70% of the total embodied carbon emission. We've been working with multiple developers, and it's nice to see that more and more developers are actually getting LCAs done for their projects. I didn't take it up in this presentation today, but happy to present it sometime later as to what has been the comparison, because I thought it was a short 8 to 9 minute presentation in terms of case studies, as to what is the comparison of different building typologies and what is happening in terms of materials that are being used in different stories, and how you can actually reduce the embodied carbon by changing some materials, and what is the impact. So this is, the entire LCA mapping or the material story mapping that's happening in today's time, and how we're working towards net zero with these kind of analysis that are helping us identify our stories for tomorrow. We're all talking about carbon, we're all talking about net zero, we're talking about going, and I think this is also very important. And the entire mapping of the supply chain, the industrial insights, and the transport is very important to understand where we are heading in terms of the sustainability material story. And each of this also should be mapped along when you're doing your carbon material mapping. This was a quick comparison that I created, while we were doing. So very often we speak about green materials for decarbonization real estate. People, typically will ask me, could you share a list of materials that I can go in for, or which are the substitutes? What is the availability? So we are trying to make this kind of a roadmap or an Excel. So I've just picked up a snapshot from that, and we've put that together as to what are the materials that we can use and how we can go in. So everybody as a developer will ask me, what is the cost of it? Is it really possible to, actually go in, because everything boils down to cost, and what is the impact. So one is cost and one is speed. And both these play a very important role in actually identify the choices of materials that you make. The beginning, I spoke about my one technology. One of the reasons why all of us are going for that is absolutely speed. Most of us know the story behind it, which I'm not going to elaborate. But, it's important to understand that people are thinking about speed also in today's time, where our cities are growing exponentially. And we're trying to work on this entire green material directory or the green material analysis, and how material products can actually be, and what is the availability of it, which is also very important when we talk about green materials. I think this is something that's already happening, and we should, as individual, as real estate developers, as architects, uh, we have in IGBC the Green Pro directory, which has been vetted. We have EPDs that are available of products in the market, LCAs of products which have been done. So such products should be definitely given higher priority when you're doing your selections of green materials in today's time, and they're available now. So I think that's very interesting, that more and more materials now are actually putting their stories out. They're putting their impact assessments. They're putting out what is the carbon footprint. They're putting out stories about what is happening in the, how they're manufacturing the product, what is the recycled content, what is where it is manufactured, what is the entire story of manufacturing. A lot of them are actually putting this out now, and nobody shines. So it's something that they're proud about. And this is now being even available in the, open domain, or it's available easily compared to what it used to be in the earlier days. So all of us must, when we are choosing our products, look at such products and look at and ask for such requirements. We should ask about it. Very few of us go out and ask whether a product is Green Pro certified, whether it has has done its EPDs, whether you can share the recycled content of the material, how is it manufactured. So all these questions are asked very rarely, even by architects or even by real estate developers. So I think more and more such questions need to be posed when we go in for material selection, and that will actually help us understand whether we are choosing the right materials. So this is again just a quick, taking that this is just a snapshot from something that we're working on. But it's important that there are a lot of materials available. Look at the recycled content certification. There's so many certifications that are available in the market, which talk about sustainability quotients, or whether it's an FSC certified, low VOC paints. So all these things are actually available. There are proper certificates available. Ask for them. And that's my, submission, that you need to actually ask, and that's where the demand will also increase when it comes to sustainable material and products in the market. I began my thought process with life cycle assessment. I think we should all, as real estate developers, as architects, promote whole building life cycle assessments for, figuring out the specific emission data for your projects, buildings, and the materials. Use materials, I spoke about this, which have EPDs or third-party verified LCAs in the market. Align with LEED, IGBC, GRIHA, so EDGE, even GNFZ, any of this thought process. So align with them and see how we can go in and these all certifications mandatorily ask you or push you to use green products and green materials in the construction story of your projects. And I think that's one of the things that have actually promoted more and more green buildings, to go in, and more manufacturers to think like that. So I'll give you a very interesting story. We are working with almost 20 plus RMC manufacturers who have come to us and said, you know what, we want to make green RMC. Like, we want to get it certified. We want to do it. Help us. What should be a constitution? How much recycled content? What could be the alternative materials? We've gone ahead and actually guided them how they could go that way. So from nowhere, I remember I used to speak to RMC plants and I used to say, these are the alternative materials. You can increase your fly ash content by so much. You can use alternative materials, in this percentage. And they were like, you know what, we're not going to go for it because there are no buyers in the market. But now the trends, exactly 2 years later, I can see the change in the trend where people are actually asking for it. And more RMC plants are getting certified, getting vetted to go in for green RMC plants. So this is just one example that I've given, but there are many such materials which, actually approach us to make such commitments. So design for, this is just integrated circularity, which is equally important. And I think we've all spoken about this. And I think supply chain, again, is very important because it's not just about the material selection, but it's also about the supply chain that we should now focus on, along with the materials or the configuration of manufacturing. And that should also be given weightage while we are doing our material selections, in terms of the products that we choose while construction. So actionable takeaways: adopt a material-first decarbonization strategy, map embodied carbon, prioritize certified green materials, integrate circularity in your stories, in your construction definitions, have it as a part of your brief, and definitely have it, percolated through actually your purchase departments. And I think that's very important when we talk about it in the real estate sector, because they are the end users. Architects also must ensure that it is integrated within the entire ecosystem when you're actually suggesting materials. Enhance asset value and compliance. Net zero is the future. That's me for you, keeping it short and sweet as to what is the building story and how we can go about it and what should be the future. So over to you. Thank you.